Recorded Books and RB Digital present Tiamat's Wrath, Book 8 of the Expanse, by James Okoye. Narrated by Jefferson Mays. To George R. Martin, good mentor, better friend. Prologue. Holden. Christian Avasarala was dead. She'd passed in her sleep on Luna 4 months earlier. A long, healthy life, a brief illness, and she left humanity very different than she'd found it. The news feeds all had obituaries and remembrances pre-recorded and ready to spin out across the 1,300 systems to which humanity was heir. The chyrons and headlines had been hyperbolic. The Last Queen of Earth, and Death of a Tyrant, and Avasarala's Final Farewell. No matter what they said, they hit Holden just as hard. It was impossible to imagine a universe that wouldn't bow to the little old woman's will. Even when the confirmation came to Laconia that the reports were true, Holden still believed deep in his bones that she was out there somewhere, irritated and profane, and pushing herself past all human limits to bend history just another fraction of a degree away from atrocity. It was almost a month between the moment he heard the news and the first time he let himself accept that it was true. Christian Avasarala was dead. But that didn't mean she was finished. A state funeral had been planned on Earth before Duarte intervened. Avasarala's time as Secretary-General of the United Nations had been a critical period in history, and her service not only to her world but to the whole human project had earned her a place of honor that could never be forgotten. The High Consul of Laconia thought it only right and proper that she find her final resting place at the heart of the new empire. The funeral would be at the State Building. A memorial would be built to her so that she would never be forgotten. The part where Duarte was complicit in the vast slaughter on Earth that defined Avasarala's career got skipped over. History was in the process of being rewritten by the winners. Holden was pretty sure that even though it didn't make it into the press releases and state news feeds, everyone remembered that she and Duarte had been on opposite sides back in the day. And if they didn't, he certainly did. The mausoleum, her mausoleum, since there wasn't anyone else of sufficient stature to share it with her yet, was white stone polished micron smooth. The great doors were closed now. The service concluded. A portrait of Avasarala filled the center panel on the north face of the structure. It was etched into the stone along with the dates of her birth and death, and a few lines of poetry he didn't recognize. The hundreds of chairs, arrayed around the podium where the priest had spoken, were only about half filled now. People had come from across the empire to be here, and now that they were, they mostly broke into little clumps with whoever they already knew. The grass around the crypt wasn't like the stuff back on Earth, but it filled the same ecological niche, and behaved similarly enough that they called it grass. The breeze was warm enough to be comfortable. With the palace behind him, Holden could almost pretend that he might walk out to the wilderness beyond the palace grounds, and go wherever he chose. His clothes were of Laconian military cut, blue with the spread wings that Duarte had picked for his imperial icon. The collar was high and stiff. It scraped the skin along the side of Holden's neck. The place where his insignia of rank would have gone was blank. Empty was apparently the symbol of the honored prisoner. "Will you be going into the reception, sir?" a guard asked. Holden wondered what exactly the escalation tree looked like when he said no. That he was a free man and rejected the hospitality of the palace. Whatever it was, he was pretty sure it had already been practiced and rehearsed, and he probably wouldn't enjoy it. "In a minute," Holden said.